autumn, once a year, an old man emerges out of the upper lake. He walks up to the walls of the city and asks those passing by whether the construction has been finished. Everybody answers him, no, it hasn't. The thing is, if he finds out the city's renovation is complete, the lake will overflow the shores and flood the city. Locals take this legend very seriously. So, the city is considered forever unfinished. This is Tallinn, my friends. My name is Diana, and I have a whole day to get to know this capital. Since the day is only just the beginning, you can take it easy and relish in breathing in this fresh air of the Baltic Sea. Tallinn wakes up quite early, so I strongly recommend not putting off your morning walk. There are a lot of small, cozy cafes in Tallinn, most of them with terraces working all year round. I've chosen one not far from the observation deck. I'm enjoying myself, having paid only $4.50 for mulled wine and $4.50 for a pastry. Very reasonable prices. Tallinn isn't a big city, but there are a lot of things to see here. For most of its history, the city lived under the name Reval. The old city started being built in the Middle Ages, and as we know, remains unfinished. It has two parts, the upper town and the lower town. This distinction related to the class of local inhabitants and due to its hilly landscape. The upper part, of course, accommodated that the government and the nobility, whereas the lower part of the city was taken over by the bustle of the active trading. As a port city, lots of various goods were delivered here by sea, and after all, why should one carry that weight uphill? Most tourists commonly start their journey in Tallinn, at the town hall square, and then being pretty drained, they crawl up to the Dome Cathedral. I'll give you some advice. If you go in the opposite direction, you'll get to see way much more in much less time, for it's always easier to go down rather than up, don't you think? There you go. The Dome Cathedral. The entrance is free, but a donation is encouraged. And if you want to listen to the famous organ of the Dome Cathedral, then come here on a Saturday, exactly at noon. The cathedral has been here since the 13th century. The first story about the cathedral was nightmarish. It is here where the Danes and the German Knights of the Sword fought to conquer. The Livonian Knights of the Sword killed all the Danes and put their bodies down at the church altar. It was then that the complaint was sent to the Pope, and this incident was named the Bloodbath. So this expression doesn't originate from low-quality action movies, but rather it's quite historical. The cathedral is so ancient that it's descended a few meters below ground level, and now its floor is lower than the pavement. The luxurious and noble coat of arms on the walls remind us of the fact that this once was a church of the German nobility. Many famous people were buried here, but for the tourists from Russia, the most famous person buried here is the great Russian seafarer, Ivan Krusenstern, who all our fellow natives have heard of there in their childhood, I think. And somewhere near here, there's a turn into the Lane of Katarina, and I suspect that it may be here. Let's go check it out. Kelder. Yes, see? And for people like me, there's even a sign. The entire quarter makes up the premises of the Catholic monastery of St. Katarina, which stood here up until the 16th century. Saint Katarina, send me a nobleman. Oh, and by the way, I'm not just messing with you here, as I recall the classic Musketeers movie. The thing is, Protestants and Catholics, as always, weren't always getting along. And so the monks were driven out of here in those times, and the monastery was closed. On the bright side, the very first school in the lower town was opened in the building. The main square is only a couple of steps from here. The town hall square is the very heart of the bustling, rich commercial life of Reval. By the way, this is the only Gothic town hall preserved in Northern Europe. The building of the medieval city administration has been here for over 600 years. You know, in some places, cathedrals are guarded by gargoyles, but in Tallinn, they have these dragons. However, for me, they don't look like dragons, but like real frog princesses, only the evil and nasty version. Clearly, nobody ever ended up marrying them. These forged copper dragon frogs have been here since the 17th century. While the interior of this cathedral is stunning, you can actually only get to it to see it in July or in August. Otherwise, for the other months of the year, you have to make an appointment. Well, what do you expect? The administrating is still in full swing here. Actually, there's so much to see here that you don't know where to look first, around or up or down. Speaking of, you should actually watch your step as you go, because somewhere around here they have the 0 mile post, upon which you can make a wish, which of course will come true. Guys, hello. Do you know where the milepost is around here?
Yes, of course. We're actually right in front of it. There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Long live Mexico. See ya.
Thank you. Of course. Bye-bye. Well, now I can make a wish. The spot's free right now. Hope my dreams come true. It's usually hard to discern to where legends end and reality begins. And it's even more surprising when it turns out that deeply historical things in Tallinn are quite progressive actually. One of the oldest pharmacies in Europe isn't too far from here. It has existed since the 15th century, and it still works as a regular pharmacy today. In the olden days, it was owned by the Butchard family. One of them was also the attending physician of the famous Russian Tsar Peter I. At that time, they not only sold medicines, but also paper, selling wax, tobacco, and even brandy. Without needing to pay any taxes, I imagine it was quite a profitable business. This little something for $10. I know what it is. And even here, of course, like everywhere in Estonia, there is a legend that Estonians firmly believe that marzipan was invented here. The thing is, Estonians used to use almonds to treat nervous disorders, like bad tempers. It seemed like this marzipan is the perfect little souvenir from Estonia.
What would you like, madam?
Yes, I'd like to have some marzipan, but I would like to understand its medicinal qualities.
So many. Do you have some problems with your heart?
Ah, this is for the heart, isn't it?
Do you have...
Well, I guess the heart's been more and more...
More or less.
A bit more nervous with time.
Really?
It's great. What else is marzipan prescribed for?
For stupidity. To be smart.
Oh, can I have a little bit more then? But the pharmacy is basically like a museum. Oh, and by the way, yes, there actually is a museum here. And here's the entrance to the museum. Wow, this has shocked me to the core. They used a dead hedgehog as a treatment, for instance. For what? It's a history unknown. Dog feces. Ew, how gross. And this thing was prescribed to treat heartburn. Can you imagine? And here's a dried toad, which treats headaches if sucked. When you think of Tallinn, it's not only the Middle Stone Age, but it's actually also known for the most ecologically clean and green cities in the world. You can feel it best in Katarina. It takes 10 minutes to get here from the center for $1.80 by tram. An elite residential area surrounds the park, and the official presidential palace is nearby as well. So not only have I traveled a few kilometers, but I've also jumped several centuries. At this point, Reval had already become a part of the Russian Empire, and the Russian Tsar Peter the Great decided to develop a palace for leisure in the suburbs and laid out this park here. He named it in honor of his beloved wife, Ekaterina Till, which is Katarina in Estonian. I wish we could all have a husband who built us a summer house just like this. Well, of course, Peter didn't forget about himself. There's Peter's own house, but I've already been to at least 3 of his summer homes in several different cities, so I'll leave this one for my next visit. Seeing the palace, I think, is a must. The Katarina Museum has a pretty changeable schedule, so it's better to check hours of operation on their website ahead of time. The entrance costs $7.35. I have a foolproof method that guarantees having the brightest, fullest experience in the shortest amount of time. All I had to do is ask what the exhibition's main glory is, and they directed me toward a portrait of Peter the Great.
You won't see it anywhere else outside of Estonia. Not in Russia, nor European museums. And we call him here our local Tallinn guy. It's such a beautiful, ceremonial portrait.
I seem to understand Peter now, as I like Tallinn more and more. I can't afford wasting a minute. I've got to run. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Good luck to you.
If you have more than one day in the city, unlike me, I really advise you to spend at least a half a day in the cathedral. Then you'll have time to see the Kumu Museum. Kumu is a museum of modern Estonian art. They say there are nearly 60,000 exhibits, and with my love for museums, I run the risk of getting stuck there until late at night. So it's better if we head to another place where we can experience the modern Tallinn atmosphere. It only takes 400 feet to reach the sea. But later on, I'm not going to go by foot. We have to save time. When going to a trendy spot, you've got to take the trendiest means of transport. You can rent a bicycle right here on the waterfront and head to the Arts Quarter. It'll take 15 minutes tops. Biking doesn't take much longer than going by tram, but you also get to feel the breeze of the sea in the city as you commute. On the way to Telliskivi, one of the trendiest of places that I've told you about, you can see the depot. This is a market where you can eat authentic Estonian street food. I'm already very, very hungry. The locals seem to have already had lunch. It's empty. It's better then to head straight to the market itself. My uncle asked me to bring him back some real Tallinn rye bread from Estonia. He's been here once and hasn't forgotten the flavor since. I'm curious as to what's so special about this bread. Let's go try it. There's butter too. Perfect. Look, it has some oats on it and some grains. It smells freshly baked. You know, truly homemade bread. I firmly believe that in order to really grasp the feel of a new city, you can't just check out the touristy spots. You should also try to find where the locals frequent. The market is exactly that. Here you can see a slice of real life. You can smell all the aromas and simply enjoy the atmosphere. It fuels you with energy, and I'm completely satisfied. You know, I almost prefer the spirit of the old streets, all their legends and superstitions. Here, they're everywhere. For instance, spotting a chimney sweeper will bring you luck. And since it's unlikely to meet a real one these days, they've placed a little sculpture here. It'll definitely bring me good luck because it's right in front of my hotel. I'll rub this button and stop by my room for a few minutes. Generally, I like to stay in hotels located in the city center. You can always drop by on the way from one spot to another. Besides, I think you can feel out the atmosphere even better in the center, and here the hotels are especially cozy and stylish. But yeah, the major plus is living 2 steps away from all the sights. See here, we have a nice garden nearby with quite the militant history. In the 13th century, the Danish king Valdemar II decided to conquer Tallinn. Standing at the walls of the settlement, he was considering his strategy. At that moment, he saw the heavens open and the Danish flag fall right into his hands. He succeeded, of course, and the place from which he entered is now the Danish Garden. Well, I'll follow the king's lead and will try to take the wall of the fortress by storm. Thousands of tourists are doing the same in the mornings, so it's better to come here, like I did, after lunch. It's much calmer. Climbing the wall is easy, even for a child. The Tallinn Town wall is a unique phenomenon. There are exhibitions, cafes, and at one point there were even apartments in which absolutely ordinary locals lived. You can get to the Maiden's Tower right through this very wall. Now, there's a nice cafe with a beautiful view of the city. Medieval morals are far from the modern-day tolerance of Europe. If you were 23 and not married, you, my dear, had to go to the Maiden's Tower. You had to work there knitting socks, soldiers' trousers, cooking fish soup, and waiting, hoping that some soldier would see you and choose you to be his wife. Well, what's better? Any husband was better than no husband at all. We don't have time to sit around. By the way, speaking of soldiers and knights, I have yet to see the main warrior of Tallinn, old Thomas. Well, if I manage to return to the town hall square before dusk, I'll tell you how he became a leading emblem of the city. Estonians have the most beloved and adorable legend about their Tallinn city emblem. So the legend begins with the fact that, in olden days, they used to hold competitions for archers. Their target was a wooden parrot. Then one day, some bold guy, in front of all the best and most skillful archers, hit the target from an incredible distance. It's not surprising that everyone made a fuss, wanting to find this show-off. And, instead, they found some little commoner, a poor boy named Thomas. This brave little boy was then made a city guard, which was a very great honor. He served for a long time, fought bravely, and then returned to his hometown. Thomas was highly respected ever since. He even became somewhat of a celebrity. And whenever he appeared, everyone shouted, "Viva Thomas! Hooray, Thomas! How are you?"
Good afternoon, lady. How am I? Not the best, to be honest. I have to stand here on the top, and to tell you the truth, I'm afraid of heights. With the cold winds blowing constantly, I keep having to turn to one side and then to the other. I don't know where to go, and in my head, I think maybe I shouldn't have taken the bow and hit the target. Maybe no one would have known about me, and I wouldn't have become a legend. I would have lived peacefully, continued my life, and would have just gone to heaven.
But you're right in heaven. There, at the very top, stands the real Old Thomas, and this is, of course, just an urban legend. If you want to have some reminder of the Tallinn Legends, I suggest you visit a medieval souvenir shop. Tallinn has a prosperous history in some ways, and, of course, where there's money, there's good buying and selling. So, in that way, all sorts of different dishes and interesting goods were brought here from all over the world. For instance, these spices are clearly imported from some country in the East. Dishes have a story of their own here in Estonia, especially when we speak of medieval times. For instance, these specialty glasses with knobs, well, in the Middle Ages, the hands were greasy, the food was fat, so they came up with these types of glasses that won't slip out of your hands. Also, there were personalized glasses you could carry everywhere with you. Why, you may ask? Well, because the medieval period wasn't the cleanest one. So you could carry around your glass and make sure that at least your glass was kept clean. But the most interesting drinking glass is the revel cup. Typically, it was used for drinking beer, and it has 3 handles. One is for the rich merchant, the second one is for his wife, and the third one is for his business partner, to make a profitable deal. Oh, I had lunch so long ago I can now only think of food-related topics. That's it, I can't even look at these rings and earrings. It's nighttime already, and I'm quite hungry. And the good thing about this medieval shop is that there's a great restaurant nearby. The restaurant was named after the Hanseatic Trade Union. It was exactly in order to try and compete with this trade union that Peter the Great set off to open a path to Europe for Russia. I think they should serve you here in a medieval style, following the tradition of medieval merchants. They drank red aromatic wine. Water, okay. Warm bread. Oh, it's so nice. And the cheese looks like ordinary soft cheese with some spices or herbs. Mmm. And they're already bringing the main dishes.
Here you are.
Oh, I like it. Look at the portion.
Yes, this is a medieval portion. And another dish is the Burgomaster fillet. There are 2 kinds of meat here, boar and moose fillet. And there is mushroom and red wine sauce. Yes, it is.
Real game.
Yes, this is the specialty of the house.
Awesome. Well, today I'm having a feast. I don't know how to stay slim under these conditions. It's really worth visiting the place to feel the faraway medieval times. It's like time traveling 500 years. I can't say it's cheap here, but the old recipes are really special. Delicious. Simply delicious. The leg is great, but I still really want to try the boar and moose. Wow, what a heavy dish. You can easily tell that the Middle Ages weren't a graceful period. If you only have a day in the city, I suggest you don't try to save any money at all on your farewell dinner. A wonderful experience, earned from diligent touristing, deserves a decent evening, and then all your memories will be full and satisfying. Tallinn turned out to be a surprisingly sunny city, with beautiful architecture, saturated with incredible aromas and spices. I couldn't imagine it would be like this before I visited, even if in one day. In one day, I got to know not only a whole new country, but also another era. Hope to see you in the next city. Bye-bye!